Will Hunting is sitting at his home reading a book. His close friend, Chucky Sullivan, drives to his house to fetch him up. Will joins him, and they get into the car and go. At MIT, Professor Gerald sets his students a theorem to answer before the end of the semester, promising that whomever solves it will have their accomplishment recognized in the MIT newspaper. Will is a janitor at MIT. The given theorem is displayed on a board in the corridor. Will is softly sweeping the floors. After the kids have left, he stares at the questions written on the board with astonishment. Will and Chucky head to a bar. Will is in a pleasant mood, yet he decides to depart early. He returns home and works on the theorem he discovered earlier in the day. The next day, he completes his cleaning responsibilities while solving the theorem on the hallway board. Will and Chucky are playing baseball. Will keeps hitting Chucky, claiming he's crowding the plate. Chucky suggests going to a Harvard pub the following week, and Will appears to accept. Gerald is attending an MIT alumni reunion. His classmates approach him and inquire about the individual who solved the theorem. He's shocked to find the solution printed on the board. He asks other students if they have solved it, but no one responds. Will, Chucky, Morgan, and Billy are at a baseball game. Will recognizes one of the attendees as his childhood bully. They eventually leave to find nourishment. While traveling, they notice Will's bully acting out again. The group starts a fight with him, and the cops arrive and arrest Will. Gerald joins his class and observes an unusually large number of people present. Everyone is curious about who solved the theorem. He asks the unknown individual to expose themselves, but no one responds. Gerald notices Will as he solves a question on the board. He forcefully tells him he cannot graffiti over there. Will walks away swiftly. Gerald subsequently looks at the board and recognizes that Will is a genius. Will visits the Harvard bar with his friends as scheduled. Morgan mocks him for being sacked from his job as a janitor. Chucky flirts with two Harvard students and lies about taking a history class with one of them. A man named Clark shows up. He begins to fiercely criticize Chucky by boasting about his grasp of history, mocking him for his lack of expertise on the subject. Will joins the conversation. He outwits Clark and accuses him of plagiarism and lack of originality in his historical statements. Clark is left feeling ashamed. He attempts to fling insults at Will, but Will manages the situation nicely, and Clark backs down. Later, Skylar, one of the girls Chucky was flirting with, arrives and talks to Will. She expresses her interest in him and provides him her phone number. They talk about going out sometime. Gerald goes to the Buildings and Grounds office in search of Will. He is informed that he did not come to work today. They may call his parole officer, as Will received his job through him. Will is in court defending himself for striking a cop. The judge claims he has a history of misbehavior. He also says that while staying in various foster homes, he was removed from 3 of them due to serious physical abuse. His accusations are not dismissed, and his bond amount is set at $50,000. He then calls Skylar from jail to check on her, and asks if they can meet up soon. He is taken to meet Gerald, who offers to help him under 2 conditions. First, he will agree to work more on math, and then he will see a therapist. Will takes the therapist role casually. Will and Gerald work on math together, and it appears that they are having fun. He sees several therapists and struggles to open up. He continues to take them lightly and mock them. He does not listen to anyone. Finally, Gerald decides to have Will meet with Dr. Sean Maguire, his college roommate, who is now a therapist. Gerald goes to see Sean at work. They discuss how they had not seen one other since Sean's wife passed away. Meanwhile, Will informs Chucky of his probation and counseling arrangement. Gerald persuades Sean to counsel Will because he is extremely brilliant and worth a shot. He also claims that they are both from South Boston. Will meets Sean and behaves casually. They talk books and exercise. He's quite arrogant. He begins talking about an artwork in Sean's office. He mocks his artwork and ends up making assumptions and making nasty remarks about Sean's wife, to which he responds sternly, reminding Will of the boundaries. Gerald truly tells Sean after Will leaves that he understands if he does not want to see Will again. But Sean is eager to see him again next week. Sean stays awake at night, immersed in his thoughts. Will and Skylar spend time together. She discusses her education and elite background, as well as her plans to attend Stanford Medical School. Following graduation, they enjoy each other's company and have a nice time. Will meet Sean as planned, and Sean leads him outside to the lake. He informs him that he remained up late thinking about Will's comments about his artwork, and realized that he is merely a youngster who has no idea what he is talking about. He knows Will has never gone outside of Boston. If Scene asked him about art, he could talk about creative literature, but he couldn't express what the Sistine Chapel smelt like or how magnificent its ceiling was in person. If he asked him about women, he could talk for hours, but he would never understand what it was like to be truly content in someone's presence. If you questioned him about war, he would have no idea what it was like. He has never experienced true love or grief, thus he is unaware of it. Scene acknowledges his wife's death from cancer during our conversation. He does not see Will as a confident man. Instead, he sees him as a timid child attempting to appear tough. He assumed everything about Scene's life after gazing at an artwork. He knows Will is an orphan who has gone through difficult times, so might reading Oliver Twist help him understand his own life. He can only comprehend him if he is willing to open up and discuss his experiences, but he realizes that Will is too afraid to do so. Scene leaves, and Will gradually realizes what has happened. That evening, Will contacts Skylar from a payphone while it rains fiercely. She answers the phone, but he says nothing and hangs up. Will and Scene meet for their therapy session. He stays silent throughout and leaves when the time is up. Scene recognizes that he will not speak until he wants to. Sometime later, Will is working on mathematical problems and outwits a polished and learned man with his solutions. Gerald is impressed. Will ultimately begins talking to Scene after he cracks a joke. He confidently discusses how he went on a date and didn't bother checking in with Skylar again. Scene labels him an amateur. Will argues that he knows what he's doing, claiming that she is unlike any other woman he's been with. Scene believes he should call her, but he doesn't want to damage his current connection by getting to know her more since it would become monotonous and boring. Scene mocks him for his approach, claiming that due to his conduct, he will go through life never really knowing someone and mentioning his own wife's tiny behaviors that only he is aware of. They chuckle together. He claims that inconsequential memories are what genuinely count, and that people pick who they allow into their lives. He tells Will that neither he nor Skylar are perfect. They simply need to determine whether they are right for each other, and the only way to do so is to give it a go. Will asks if he has ever considered remarrying, but he remains faithful to his deceased wife. Will uses Scene's own assertion against him, claiming that he will go through life never truly knowing anyone. Will pays Skylar a visit and apologizes for ghosting her. He asks whether they can go out again. Skylar claims she is preoccupied with university assignments. She must assign the proton spectrum to a Dugaman. Will leaves and returns soon with the solution to her homework, stating that he couldn't wait until later to spend time with her. They attend a dog race together, and Skylar's dog also competes. Her dog wins. She discovers that Will grew up in South Boston and inquires about his childhood memories and siblings. He reveals he has 12 older brothers, and Skylar expresses her desire to meet them. Will asks Scene if he regrets meeting his wife, and he denies it, claiming there are benefits and drawbacks to everything. Will asks when he knew she was the one for him, and he gives a date, demonstrating how well he remembers everything. They met at a baseball game. Scene discusses the game's highlights, but later admits he wasn't there to watch the entire game since he was spending time with his future bride. Will criticizes him for missing out on such a significant event. He has no regrets about the time he spent with his wife over his lifetime. Will and Skylar spend time together and interact intimately. She asks when he will show her his home and allow her to meet his friends and brothers. He claims he'll take her to meet them. Chucky, Billy, and Morgan meet up with Will and Skylar. They share humorous anecdotes and communicate, but Will appears hesitant to show Skylar his personal life. Chucky mocks him, claiming that if she saw his living conditions, she'd drop him like a terrible habit. Will manages to persuade him to hand over his car keys. Gerald meets Scene to discuss Will. He thinks he should chat to him about his future because he has been receiving numerous employment offers that match Will's capabilities. Scene doesn't believe Will is ready yet. The talk becomes heated as a quarrel erupts. Scene wants Will to figure out what he wants to do in life on his own, whilst Gerald wants him to study math. He says he sent Will to an employment meeting. Will sends Chucky to the job meeting rather than himself. Chucky behaves casually, which confuses the rest of the firm. Skylar asks Will whether he has a photographic memory, given his intelligence and how something as complex as organic chemistry comes so easily to him while studying it for fun. He explains that he is inherently skilled at studying. They become affectionate with one another. Later, Skylar expresses her desire for Will to accompany her to California. It gets serious as Will expresses his dread of abandonment. He clashes with her, fiercely recounting his traumatic past. He lied about having brothers. He's a mistreated orphan. Skylar tells him she loves him, but he rejects her, breaking her. Tom reminds Will that he should appreciate Gerald for working so hard with him. Gerald asks him about the job meeting, and the scene becomes uncomfortable. Will claims he had a date and sent Chucky instead. Gerald is not happy to hear this. Will says he doesn't want to spend his life explaining things to others. Gerald says he could express his gratitude. Will boasts about how easy the evidence is for him, whilst Gerald struggles to solve it. He burns the proof as Gerald concedes that Will has greater promise than him. He is disappointed that Will simply throws it all away. Will attends a job interview for the National Security Agency and explains why he wouldn't work for them in a very funny and comprehensive manner. Scene asks Will whether he has a soulmate, and he denies it. During their debate, Will becomes defensive about how low-wage employment are not regarded noble. Scene understands that they have honor. He tries to go further by asking Will what he really wants to do with his life, but Will becomes impractical again. This time, Scene simply asks him to leave, since he will not tolerate his folly. Will and Skylar exchange a heartbreaking phone conversation. He calls to check in before she departs. She tells him she loves him, but he doesn't respond. He waits on a bench alone as Skylar boards her aircraft to California. Gerald is angry because Will did not show up for his session with Scene. Will and Chucky are on the construction site. Chucky makes Will see how he is wasting all of his talent and being ungrateful for the intelligence he has been given. Scene and Gerald have a heated fight about Will, with Scene defending him by claiming that he has always been afraid of abandonment. He's emotionally traumatized. Gerald solely wants him to pursue mathematics, which irritates Scene. They yell and resent one another for their previous mistakes. Will walks in, and Gerald exits. Scene suggests submitting his file to the judge for evaluation. They discuss their experiences with physical assault. Will tells him that he broke up with Skylar. Scene convinces Will that none of what happened to him was his fault. He breaks down and holds Scene while crying. Will takes the bus alone and spends time thinking. Scene and Will meet for their last session. Will discusses his new employment, which he obtained through an opportunity supplied by Gerald. Scene offers him his phone number, and they hug. Will turns 21, and his friends show him the automobile that they made for him. They are happily together. Gerald pays Scene a visit, and they both apologize and move on from their past differences. Will drives to Scene's apartment and leaves a letter. Chucky and the lads arrive at Will's house to pick him up only to discover that he has left. Chucky feels pleased that he has finally moved outside of his comfort zone. Scene reads the note and learns that Will left the job to visit Skylar. It makes him happy. Will begins his life-affirming journey to California to start afresh with Skylar and venture into an unknown future. The end. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to watch more videos like this.